Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to be talking about relative and absolute referencing within Excel. To begin, whenever you use a formula or a function within Excel, you usually use their cell address to designate their values instead of the numbers itself. However, when you start copying this formula or function across multiple cells, sometimes we have errors and problems with how the formula references to the cells that you're talking about. And we can solve this by understanding the difference between relative and absolute referencing. So to begin, I'm going to do an example of relative referencing here. So I'm going to find the sum of these two numbers. To that, I'll do an easy formula. And I can just copy it over, and everything is bliss. However, if you dig deeper in, we see that this formula uses relative referencing. What that means is that within this formula, we see there are two cells that I referred to, and these cells are the first and second cells above the formula. And when I copy it over to the next row, it keeps the same format. So in this formula, I'm referencing the first and second cells above the formula. Unlike, I'm not referencing to the row B's first two cells above, I'm referencing to the row or the column that the formula is in. And same thing with this one, the first two above the formula. And it will always remember this, as this is known as relative referencing. I'm going to do another example. However, there's a little problem with this one. So again, I'm going to do a sum. I'll copy it over. And, well, for starters, this works. However, we see that in the second number row, all of these numbers are the same. We can make this a lot simpler and make it a lot neater by only using one cell to represent the same number that's repeated, especially if there's, let's say, 500 columns and this number is copied 500 times. It looks more complex, and it's not really necessary at all. We can just use one cell to represent it. And this is where absolute referencing becomes really important. So I have this chart where I'm going to use absolute referencing to make it a lot simpler. So again, I am going to do this like I would do on a normal. I'm going to use absolute referencing. Yeah, that's right. Sorry. And I'm just going to copy it across. And, well, I get an answer. However, it's wrong because I want to add these two numbers. But these formulas are using relative referencing again. And to fix that, I'm going to have to use absolute referencing on the cell address that I want to always point to. So I always want the cell or the formula to point to B17, or where this value 5 is. So I'm going to go into the first formula, and to make an address absolute, you're going to put a $sign before the row and the column. So I'm going to put a $sign for B and a $sign before 17. I'm going to press enter, and there, so far so good. Nothing's really changed. But when I copy it over, I'm going to get the correct answers. So in this formula, we see B16 is relative referenced, and B17 is absolute referenced. And when I copy it over, the first cell address moves along with the formula. However, the one where I put absolute, it didn't move. And same thing with here. It's always 2 above, then it will always reference back to B17. And that's really important. As an example, let's say I bought some office equipment for my office, and I have a purchase order I want to find the total of. So I would first find the cost of each item, which I can use a basic formula with relative referencing. So we can do the price times the quantity. And since each item has a different price and a different quantity, I can just copy it all the way down, and it'll just work. However, the tax is all the same on each item. And just an FYI, I could also have done this chart with an extra column that says tax, and just copy this all the way down, and did relative referencing for the tax cost. However, again, makes it a lot more complex, and it's really unnecessary. So I'm just gonna undo that, and I'm just gonna absolute reference this 12% in this one cell. So I'm gonna do relative referencing with the cost, and I'm gonna multiply it with absolute referencing of the tax. Press enter, and just copy it all in, and it will always reference it to F2 in each of these tax values. Yep, there you go. Total cost is again a quick formula of the cost and tax added together. I can use relative referencing for this. Finally, grand total, I can use a function and just sum all these up. And there you go. This is the total of all my office supplies. And that's how you use relative and absolute referencing within Excel and when to use them. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or any comments, please put them in the comments below. Like this video, share it, and please subscribe. And I'll see you next time on my next Excel video.